Hello, everyone, and welcome back. In this session, it is the privilege to greet two speakers in Amsterdam, Rik Marselis and Wouter Ruigrok. Rik is a leading quality consultant at Sogeti Netherlands with award-winning expertise in quality engineering and testing. He co-authored the Team book Quality for DevOps Teams. And Wouter is an agile quality coach with a passion for enhancing product quality using modern techniques like BDD and Gen AI. Today, they will discuss how generative AI, such as ChatGPT and others, is transforming the work of testers and quality engineers. And they will show the Gen AI Amplifier. What is this? A tool designed to support and improve software development. So, Rik and Wouter, please take the floor. We are looking forward for your presentation.
Thank you very much, Valida. And good morning, everybody. Nice that you're here with us. And let's look into, the GenAI Amplifier. But first, I will introduce a little bit about GenAI or AI in general. And some people fear that AI will replace them. Well, I can comfort you, AI will not replace you. However, somebody who is good at using AI may replace you. So make sure you are good at using AI, and then you will have a job. So, what is happening today? What we see is that the technical complexity and the rate of change of IT are constantly increasing and going faster and faster. And at the same time, the expectation of delivery is shorter. So we should deliver more in less time. And the only thing that we can see today to support us in that is, of course, AI. Now, AI has many different terms. So, to set the scenes somewhat, let's start with artificial intelligence in general. It is something that performs complex functions, and it is similar to human intelligence, or at least it tries to simulate similar things as human intelligence. And an important pillar in artificial intelligence is machine learning. So machine learning is using a lot of data, a lot of source material, and then find patterns in that, and based on that, generate basically knowledge. Now, machine learning can be more in depth with deep learning, which uses more complex algorithms that have a structure like a neural network, which resembles the human brain. And these neural networks, they can become very complex, but also can mimic the human intelligence quite well in certain aspects. And the latest innovation in AI is generative AI, and it is all around us now. But remember that to the general public, generative AI started less than 2 years ago. And generative AI is software that can create new content like text, images, or even audio and video. And it often can do it almost just as well, or sometimes even better than people can do it. And a very commonly used form of GenAI are the so-called large language models, which is basically a tool that is very good at using language and generating texts based on these language models. And one of the very well-known examples of a large language model with generative AI is ChatGPT. And so ChatGPT was launched about 2 years ago, a little less than that. And to many people, it's a synonym to GenAI. However, there's much more. So this complex graph that I'm not going to explain in detail shows you all kinds of possibilities that you have with generative AI. And then keep in mind that ChatGPT is just this tiny part of the tiny part of this field. So ChatGPT, however it is very well known, still is only one small piece of all the things that GenAI could do. So what can we do? Let's first look at what does GPT mean. Um, so the G stands for generative. And that is also why we call it generative AI, because traditional AI with machine learning, it only looks at the data, interprets what's happening, and then shows you trends or analysis, but it's always looking backwards. And generative AI is going forward. It's creating new stuff. Now, the big game changer is the P of GPT. It is pre-trained because traditionally training AI models was quite a lot of work. Yeah, for people to have their own AI model was not very common because you needed to be very skilled at machine learning, at all these algorithms, and making sure that it worked. So therefore, the pre-trained models, they made the big breakthrough of AI and especially generative AI. And then we have the transformer, and the transformer, it understands context and relationships and then is able to transform between input and new output. So it really creates things that didn't exist before. And of course, these GPTs and other Gen AI models, they have quite some advantages like efficiency, scalability. They're always there. They can be used in multiple languages, and even they are quite good at translating text, for example. But there are also some disadvantages, like because it's sometimes they even give you information that's not correct, the so-called hallucination of Gen AI. Also, the models are not real people. So some people see in that real intelligence, but it misses things like emotional intelligence. And please be aware that in general models, all the knowledge that you put in can be reused and therefore can leak to other people or other organizations. And last but not least, it's a lot of technology. It uses a lot of electricity. So, from a sustainability perspective, you need to be very careful to see whether you want to things with Gen AI tools or that the same goal can be achieved with traditional tools. Um, we would like to do a warning because Wouter and I tell you how to use AI and Gen AI in your day-to-day life. But first, we would like to warn you not to always use it. So how do you decide when to use AI and when not? The first question you need to ask yourself is, does it matter if the output is correct? Because if it doesn't matter, go ahead and use Gen AI. Even if it hallucinates, it doesn't bother you because, well, then the output is not correct, but it doesn't matter. However, in most situations, of course, it does matter if the output is correct. And then the second question you need to ask yourself is, do you have the expertise and the processes to verify if the output is correct? If you don't have the knowledge and tools to check if it's okay, don't use it because it may bring you in a lot of trouble because it may give wrong answers and you will be liable for that. If you do have the expertise in the processes, then the last question is, are you willing and able to take full responsibility for any inaccuracies? So if it's wrong, do you accept the responsibility? If not, don't use it. If you are willing to take responsibility, use it, but be cautious. So GenAI can be used in day-to-day life, but be cautious to only use it in situations where you are convinced that it is with an acceptable risk. So let's look into an example. Now, a lot of people from quality engineering and testing, the first thing they think of is creating test cases using GenAI. So let's see how that would work. So what we did is we had an example and it was text in a picture and we supplied the picture to ChatGPT. And the great thing is ChatGPT can read pictures, so it transforms the text or the picture to text, and then it sees that there's something with loans and boundaries, and it sees three groups. So, well, that's nice. And what we want to do now is, of course, we want to create test cases. And we ask it to use the highest level of coverage, which is for value boundary value analysis. And if you're not totally familiar with that, well, you may want to have a look at the Quality for DevOps Teams book, where we describe more about all kinds of test design techniques. But generally, if we ask for value boundary value analysis, we expect that for each boundary we get 4 test cases. Well, as you can see here, the first thing that ChatGPT shows is 5 test cases. And there are 2 boundaries, basically, 18 and 55. So we had expected 8 test cases. So this didn't work totally well. Maybe we should extend our prompt. And here we have a larger prompt. We use 3. We ask for 3 value boundary value analysis. So that would mean that we get with 2 boundaries 6 test cases. And first it gives us 3 boundary conditions. Well, okay, that seems right. And then it gives us 6 boundary test cases. And that is basically what we expected. So that is good. However, what we already notice here, and keep in mind, boundary value analysis is by far the easiest and most intuitive test design technique. It takes quite a lot of work to make it work, and you need to have complex prompts. Now you may wonder, is it possible to create complex prompts? Well, of course, yes. Even our colleague Jeroen Egelmeers, he created the Crafting AI Prompts framework, and we put a link here on the slide. And this framework supports you in writing proper prompts, because often prompts get more complex. And one of the things you want to include is, for example, the style to be used, or specific information, how to work, or the kind of output format that you need. So this kind of framework supports you in prompt crafting, also known as prompt engineering. But remember, this is almost a profession on its own.
Yes, thanks, Rik. Indeed, so as we have seen now, as a starter, it can be quite challenging to get the proper output from a GenAI model, and you need the expertise to ask the right questions and also understand whether the output which is generated is still correct. So what we have learned along the way using GenAI in quality engineering practices is that you need numbers of skills to use GenAI in a proper way. And you need knowledge about the engineering process and software development, and know how you can apply GenAI in a safe and accurate way. You need to know how you write prompts in a good way, and to give you a bit of context and insight in these prompts. For example, if you want to write a prompt for generating test cases, applying a specific test design technique, then you will reach prompts of a size of approximately 1,300 words. So that is quite an extensive prompt. And yeah, that's of course something you don't want to do every time again, because then the time gain that you have is already gone because you need the time to write the prompts itself. And of course, Rik discussed ChatGPT and other public tools that are available, which are not safe to use them in a professional way because you don't know exactly what's happening to the data. So to apply this in a quality engineering context, you also need a secure and safe platform where you can use the GenAI on. So that you have your own environment within your organization to use the GenAI technology in a safe way without any risk of losing data and sharing that with outside your organization. So to sum that all up, applying that in such a way, we see that that is way too complex for everyday users and also much too time consuming. So the graph that Rik showed in the beginning, where there's a need to speed up and where we need to enable the shorter delivery time, yeah, that's not going to happen if we are going to use the open public available models and we have to write these prompts every time again and again. So that's also one of the reasons why we as Sogeti started on our own GenAI platform, and we started developing what we call the GenAI Amplifier. And what we do with the amplifier is there we looked at the software development lifecycle from a quality engineering perspective, and we did a analysis on which use cases that we see in this development cycle are suitable to use GenAI, and where can GenAI contribute to this development cycle. And based on these use cases, there were a bit over 20 that we prioritized in the first stage. For these use cases, we designed pre-crafted prompts. And these pre-crafted prompts are generic for one specific use case. So what I mean with that is, for example, what we saw earlier, the example of generating test cases using a boundary value analysis. We created a specific prompt for applying boundary value analysis. And we can reuse that every time when we want to apply a boundary value analysis. And for other techniques or other activities that we want to do, we created separate prompts, but we can reuse them every time we want to apply that activity. And we all developed that in a Azure OpenAI environment, so it's a cloud solution, but it's you can run it in your own instance and in a safe environment. So how does that look then? And here you see a screenshot, and I hope that it's visible for everyone clear enough, because there's quite a lot of text on it, and then might be a bit small if you have a smaller monitor. But I hope it's seeable good enough. And what we see here is one of the first activities in the process. So on the left-hand side on the screen, you can see a menu which is unfolded slightly. And there we see in the plan activities a lot of things that have to do with requirements. You see an example of requirements creation here on this slide, and there we use GenAI, we use the amplifier to translate a rough transcript of an interview that we had conducted with a business stakeholder, and then GenAI translated that in concrete features on feature epic level on what the business stakeholder has expressed in the interview that they want to see in the product that we are developing. So this was an example in the insurance sector. So it was an application where clients can submit a claim, and you can see some examples here of requirements that it should be able that clients submit their claim there, of course, and they also there should be some tutorials or some instructions for the client that they know what to fill in and what information to provide. And so based on the interview, GenAI of the amplifier had identified 11 requirements that the business stakeholder wanted to have in the new product, in the new app. Also, we see the involved actors, so the people who were involved in the interview, and also maybe using the system. It identifies knowledge gaps, so which information might be missing still, which was not in the interview explained fully. So then we know also, and that's where the quality element comes in. We know, hey, these are things that we have to take extra care of and make sure that we are clear that everyone knows what we mean here, or maybe you have to elaborate a bit on that more. Same with the unfamiliar terms that maybe also needs a bit of more explanation and clarification during the rest of the refinement process. So this is just one example what we can do with the requirements. As you might be able to see in the menu, we can also do an ambiguity analysis, so we can check a requirement whether there are not any vague words in it or inconsistencies in the terminology being used. Because from a quality perspective, these are the things that you want to clarify and explain in an earliest possible stage in the development process, because otherwise it might lead to any anomalies later in the process. Also, we can check it on testability. With the requirement refinement, we are adding additional acceptance criteria to make sure that we have clear criteria where we can verify whether the story is actually finished, yes or no. So these are all use cases that we have implemented that support the requirement stages or the requirements activities that you do during developing new features, new functionality in the product that you work on as a team. As you might be able to see in the menu, there are also other stages, other activities. Design, there we can create a data model, for example, build, there it helps to refactor or to improve the code. Integration, there's also more on test. I will come to that in a second. Deploy, so we looked at the whole development life cycle and identified use cases in all these stages. I will show an overview in a few slides as well. So let's take a closer look at the element of test. Earlier we saw an example how you could do boundary value analysis with GenAI. We incorporated multiple test design techniques, as we also described them in the Quality for DevOps team or in TMAP body of knowledge. And one of these techniques is, for example, data combination testing. And with data combination testing, what you do there is you identify the data items, and then depending on the coverage level that you want to achieve, you make combinations of this data to reach a certain coverage level. And in the amplifier, we slice these techniques up in a couple of steps. And on the screen now, you see an example of one of the first steps, where we, based on a description, on a user story, on a requirement, it helps to identify all the relevant data items. I used an example in this one for a postal company, so delivering packages. And there you can see there are multiple data items there relevant. The size of the parcel, the weight of the parcel, is it a domestic or international package? Does it have a special service type, maybe express or overnight? All these elements have influence on the end, probably the price that you pay to send that package. So now we have the data items, and with the next steps, we can make combinations to create the actual test cases. So in this way, we included multiple test design techniques, also in the different groups of test design techniques. So based on data, based on process, condition-oriented or appearance-oriented. So all these different groups come into the amplifier and are it helps you as a quality engineer to speed up the writing your test cases. Still, and that's also a bit linking to the flow chart that Rik was showing and explaining. We still need to know, of course, which techniques they are and how they should work, because I should be able to check the output. Do we have indeed all the data items that I expect? Do we have all the combinations created that we expected? So I still need to know the technique, but I don't have to create all the test cases manually. I have a tool that supports me. Of course, that's not the only thing that we do, applying the test design techniques. In the menu, you can see it also. We have also use cases where we can transform test cases that we have created into test scripts that we can automate. We can create test data with it so that we have pseudonymized or synthetic data that we can use in the testing. It can help with infrastructure validation. So also here, different activities are integrated in the amplifier. How does this work? And I already mentioned a little bit, but in the end, and that's also why we call it an amplifier, it amplifies the skills and the activities of the quality engineer. So it's not a standalone tool that will take over your work, but a qualified quality engineer can use the amplifier. And we use a standard GenAI model, which was already pre-trained, but as we saw in the earlier example, that doesn't have all the knowledge regarding quality engineering and testing. So we added these master prompts, the generic prompts that I explained earlier, but also we included the whole TMAP body of knowledge as supporting logic and context. So using RAG technology, we incorporated this knowledge to the model as well. And also where possible, we use non-GenAI technologies. For example, a tool called PICT. Some of you might know it, but it's a tool that helps you also in creating test cases. We, at some stages, use that tool also to generate the test cases. So we really looked closely where do we want to use GenAI, where is it adding value, and where can we solve it in another way, also with the eye on the sustainability, as Rik was mentioning earlier. So that whole package together, that is what we call the amplifier, and together with a quality engineer, that can be very powerful and help clients, business stakeholders to create products that have a good level of quality.
Maybe, Wouter, it's good if we explain what RAG means, because that may be an abbreviation that not everybody is familiar with.
Yeah, that's good to explain. Maybe I'll try to keep it basic and simple. And if you want to know more on it, then ask questions, and you can go into it a bit more deeper. But actually, what you do with RAG is on top of the model, you can add your own context. So instead of training the model with additional data, we add it as extra context, and then the model can use that additional knowledge also. So that gives you that enables you to customize the knowledge of the model that you use.
So basically, it is additional training, additional machine learning. And RAG, by the way, stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. So the augmentation is the main key. And like it says on the slide, we added the TMAP body of knowledge to the GenAI amplifier so that it knows about, for example, test design techniques and all the other things.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks. So as mentioned, we look at the whole development life cycle. Here you see the components that we also saw in the menu. But here you have an overview of, it's not the full overview, but a lot of the use cases that are incorporated in Amplifier at the moment. So we see the requirements part that we have shown before, the design where we can create, we can translate requirements into a design or into a data model. On the coding level, we can help to enhance the code quality. Amplifier is not a code generation tool. It can do that, and you can use it as a coding assistant a bit, but it's not integrated in your IDE as a developer. So there are also other tools that you can use for that, but it focuses more on the quality of the code. So refactoring the code and improving the code being used. API integration and integration scripts, also on the deployment part, the infrastructure as code and pipeline as code. So yeah, we cover the whole development life cycle and from a quality engineering perspective. And then we come to the end of our presentation. We try to cover it as much as possible in the time available. But I hope that we have given you a bit of insight in what GenAI is and how you could use it, and also that you often need to do a bit of additional development on the AI to use it really for specific quality engineering activities. But when you have these tools and in the hands of skilled quality engineers, it can be a very powerful tool to support your quality engineering activities. From a productivity perspective, so it can really gain productivity, but also increase the quality if it's easier to create your test cases or to scan your requirements on missing things in your requirement. Yeah, that will definitely contribute also to a better level of quality than compared to when you're not using the tooling. Never solely rely on the GenAI. Always verify the output because it might sometimes hallucinate or miss things. So you always want to double check it a bit. But of course, it saves a lot of time and on the creating the test cases or the requirements. And with these type of tools, such as Amplifier, the no prompt or low prompt tooling, then it makes it available also for a larger group of people. You need less knowledge about writing prompts, prompt engineering, so that makes it also more available to a broader group of quality engineers. Then I think that brings us to the end. Valida, are there any questions maybe from the audience?
Yeah, Wouter and Rik, thank you so much for this great presentation. Well, it's great to know that AI is not perfect, so we have to check on it. There are some questions. I will ask my colleague Kenza to show them for all. There is the first one.
Yeah.
Should I read it? You see it, yeah.
I can see it on the screen. Yeah. No, Amplifier is not free to use. It's part of the service that we provide as Sogeti. If you want to use Amplifier, and I don't know in which country this person is, but then reach out to Sogeti in that country to discuss the possibilities of using Amplifier within your team or within your project.
Yeah, so basically, we don't market it as a tool, but as a service. However, in some organizations, you may have skilled and educated people in your own organization who are able to use it. But in the start, we will always support you in implementing it.
Yeah.
I hope that
Okay.
answers the question.
Yeah, for sure it did. I believe there's a few more questions. Yeah.
Is there a tool that uses generative AI that can be integrated in automation tests? Well, looking at this question, I think you would not integrate GenAI in automation tests. Usually, what the added value of GenAI is for automated testing is the generation of the automated scripts. And since GenAI or the most known GenAI tools are language models, and automation scripts are language, it's computer language. These tools are quite good at supporting you in creating the scripts, and then running the scripts is just done with the original test automation tool. So GenAI is basically supporting the process of creating scripts, and also sometimes in finding problems in the scripts. If the script doesn't run, you can ask the GenAI to look for any flaws or whatever goes wrong.
And maybe because what we do see in definitely the commercial test automation tooling, they are integrating GenAI in their solution more and more. So, for example, within Tosca from Tricentis, they are using GenAI also to, as Rik was explaining, to create your scripts. If you are working as a test automation engineer in a EDI where you create code, or there you can also have your code assistants. For Java, there are code assistants available for .NET environments as well. So then you can use GenAI in generating your test scripts in your IDE to automate it in that way. So yeah, there are definitely tools available to help you automate your testing, but still you also there it applies that you need to know what you are doing, and you still need to know about test automation to make it a powerful tool.
Okay, thank you, Sarit, for this question. I believe there are some more questions, or yeah, please.
Is there a detailed tutorial for the amplifier? Well, I think currently not yet. It is a very new tool. We have just introduced it like last month, I think. We've been working on it for about a year now, but it was officially launched about a month ago. So currently there's not a detailed tutorial, but we have a lot of skilled people that can support you on that. See our, there it is again. Are there more questions? Is GenAI in QA mainly used for generating test cases, or are there other major test activities? Well, another major activity that's often mentioned is generating test data, because to create test data is often a lot of work. And since it's all text, again, the large language models are good at that. But also we see more and more other things that GenAI can support on. And like, can you give another example, for example, from our amplifier?
Yeah, indeed. So I've shown this slide where we saw the whole development life cycle, and as mentioned, that we're using large language models mainly. So text-based is a thing where they are strongest. So on the on the requirements, creating acceptance criteria, improving the quality of the requirements. Yeah, that are also testing related activities or quality related activities where GenAI can be used. And yeah, as we discussed with the previous one of the previous questions in test automation, creating your scripts and your code to automate your testing. Yeah, these are all examples of activities where GenAI can be used. Maybe another one, and that's more generic but also applicable for quality engineers, is you can use GenAI sometimes also as more like a sparring partner or like a buddy. So if you are searching for ideas on what to test or how to present something to your stakeholders, there you can also use GenAI to get ideas from the tool on how you can present it or what references you might look into for additional information. So yeah, it can be also a source of inspiration in your work. And of course, that's not only for quality engineers or testers, that's also for other roles. But yeah, there it can also help you.
And keep in mind that, like we explained before, GenAI was only launched less than 2 years ago. So we envision that a lot of new possibilities will arise in the next, 1 or 2 years. So the possibilities are almost limitless, and it's mainly we still need to find out how to use it properly. But many more possibilities will come definitely.
Okay, thank you. I guess we do have more questions. Yes.
Can generative AI analyze a website as a real browser?
No. The short answer is no. It's not like a human that it will open a browser and look at a website. What you where GenAI tooling, what it can do, and that's also what we did, or at least something similar for the REC. It can, of course, look at the content of a website, but not with the same layout and visual element, but it can just look at the pure raw content of a website, and that it can see. And what you now also see, and more and more websites are embracing that and adopting that, specific how you say that, web pages have a way of making the content easy accessible for GenAI tooling. So then it's just plain text most of the time, but then that's easier for the GenAI tooling to to read and to interpret what's on that website, so that it can use the content. There are some risks on that with prompt injection and these security risks. So that's also something where we can fill a separate presentation on. But you now see that websites are also made more and more accessible for GenAI tooling to make the knowledge and the information for the tool available.
Okay. Thank you for this comprehensive answer. Unfortunately, we do not have more time to take any more questions, but there are. I have to thank you for this great presentation. Thank you all who were with us today in this session. A quick note for those who were not able to watch this session, this and all other sessions have been recorded, and you can find them on the many of A4Q Testing Summit channels. Please, to all of you who are watching us, please don't forget to vote for your best speaker and presentation on our website. Once again, thank you so much, Wouter and Rik, and see you soon, I guess.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.